All right, now we're going to talk some politics. Joining me and Allison, attorney and Republican strategist Aaron Elmore, and radio host and Project 21 National Advisory Board member Christopher Arps. All right, let's keep this conversation going on the Highland Park massacre. Now, the suspect did confess to the massacre on July 4th, as we discussed, once he was taken into custody, and also contemplated that second attack in Madison, Wisconsin, about 150 miles north of the Highland Park community. Now, Aaron, I'm going to start with you on this one. We know the shooter was labeled a clear and present danger by law enforcement back in 2019. And as we continually discuss, Illinois is one of the toughest gun laws in the country. What's the disconnect? What went wrong here?
You know, I think that law enforcement and the general public and everyone in the media is just trying to pick up the pieces of this horrible tragedy. And people on both sides of the political aisle really need to take a step back and say, hey, we have a grieving country and a grieving state and a grieving city where people are just trying to understand and feel the pain of loss that they're experiencing. And I think that's the primary focus right now. Deciding and figuring out what went wrong is really a big part of the picture. But I think it's important to don't make this so political right now. This is a terrible tragedy, and we should allow these people time to grieve. In Illinois, they have, we've seen Mayor Lightfoot in Chicago pointing the finger and advocating for stronger gun laws. We've seen the governor, Mr. Pritzker, advocating for the same kind of things. But truthfully, Illinois has the 8th strongest gun laws in the country. How much further can we take it and restrict constitutional rights here? And that's the problem that we're facing. And we have to ask ourselves, what were the police department in this state, in Illinois, doing, missing all of these flags and all of the information and facts that this young individual was very unwell? And people this unwell, by the way, should not have guns. This is not a constitutional issue any further. This young man should not have had guns. And unfortunately, he was acting within the laws as they stood in the state. You can't keep making stronger laws and expect to have different results here.
Yeah, Chris, I think Aaron's right. Is every time we see this type of situation, lawmakers are very quick to go on social media and do interviews and say, guns are the problem. This is the problem is guns. But he got the gun illegally, and there was obviously something that happened in between that. He should not have gotten a gun. What I've heard from a lot of lawmakers, mainly Democrats, is this outcry of guns, but not enough from them about the mental health issue. We've got a mental health, some say crisis in here. I know people can't even get appointments to see therapists because they're so busy, especially after COVID. So why aren't we hearing more from lawmakers about the mental health issues and getting to the root of the problem?
I think we're not hearing that because we know that the liberals and those that want to grab your guns, their main emphasis is taking your Second Amendment gun rights away from you. And they don't look at the underlying causes such as mental health and issues of that nature. Look, if someone wants to commit a horrendous crime, they're going to do it. We've seen it over in Great Britain and in England that people don't have personal handguns, that people commit murders with knives. We've seen here in America at parades, people using cars and trucks to mow people down. If someone has a disturbed mind, they're going to find some way to carry out their dastardly deed, and it is not the gun's fault. And we need to focus on the mental health issues instead of trying to disarm all of us.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. There's not just one solution. It's not just like, oh, hey, gun control. I've seen so many tweets we were talking about. Someone will just say, gun control now. Well, okay, there are so many more nuances and issues, and I'm glad that we're getting to that. But I do also want to get to that Britney Griner story we're hearing so much about, making top headlines. Now, the president did speak with Griner's wife about the WNBA star's arrest in Russia, and the president intends to write a letter back to Griner. She wrote one to him, pen pals in a way. He says he is working hard to get her back home. Chris, is the president doing enough here? I'm sure it is way more complicated than we see it. Your take?
I think the president, the United States government is probably doing everything in their power to try to bring Miss Griner home. Unfortunately, Miss Griner got herself caught up in a situation over there in Russia with the hashish oil at a time when Ukraine and Russia were at war and the rest of the world is at war with her. I think it was very unfortunate yesterday that Britney Griner's wife and her supporters started throwing out the gender and sexuality and race card, saying that if this would have been LeBron James over in Russia in a similar situation, he would be home by now. That is not the case. She is caught up in a geopolitical storm right now that it was not of her making, and unfortunately, because of that, she's going to be over there for quite a while.
Yeah, and we're seeing Al Sharpton get involved in this too. But Allison, you are our resident PR expert, so I have a question for you as well. You know, we've been seeing Britney Griner's wife really kind of wage, I'm going to say, her efforts trying to get President Biden's attention by using the media. You know, my question, I think that's very interesting strategy here. And the White House actually released a readout of the phone call between President Biden and Griner's wife. Here as a little excerpt, the president directed his national security team to remain in regular contact with Sherelle, that's Britney's wife, and Britney's family, and with other families of Americans held hostage or wrongfully detained abroad. Is this the right move? Do you think, I mean, is this, I'm going to say, the right PR play to get someone back who's being held hostage or who's being detained in another country?
Absolutely. The family needs to do this because we know in the media we carry a story and then it kind of goes away unless there's developments. And this has been going on since February. So by her coming and speaking out, doing media interviews, by Britney Griner writing that letter to the president, the media, what happens, you do these interviews, the media starts asking questions of the White House and the president. So this keeps it top of mind. You have to do that. You have to get out there and do interviews and advocate for yourself. We saw Natalie Holloway's mom, remember the girl who was missing in Aruba? Yeah. Her mom kept that story alive by talking to the media. These are the times that, unfortunately, if you have something like this, you have to use the media to your advantage.
No, so the strategy is a good
strategy.
And we've been hearing more and more about it in the headlines, and of course talking about it much more here on Newsmax as well.
Absolutely.
All right, so thanks so much to our panel. We're going to see both of you in the next hour.